Okay, good afternoon to all the speakers. I will take attendance now. Fatih Naufal,
Present.
okay, thank you. Indri Widiati Sari, Indri Widiati Sari, are you here? Okay, not yet. Next, Angga Mahardika Putra.
Ya.
Okay. Naila Nurul Askia.
Present, Mister.
Okay, thank you. And Tiara Permata Hadi. Are you here, Tiara? Okay, not yet. Okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Okta Eka Putra, and I will be served as you as moderator for the parallel session. I am a lecturer in the management studi program at Universitas Informatika dan Bisnis Indonesia, UNIBI, and it's a great honor to welcome you all the international conference on interdisciplinary for sustainable development, Interdis 2025, organized by APTISI Komisariat SIGBI in collaboration with Universitas Informatika dan Bisnis Indonesia, UNIBI. We truly appreciate your presence today, and I hope the session will be insightful, engaging, and full the enriching discussion for all of you. Now, allow me to introduce ours for the parallel session. We have five speakers from Universitas Informatika dan Bisnis Indonesia. The speaker come from three different programs: management, accounting, and informatics. Each of them we will sharing their unique perspective and insight on topics that are highly relevant to our conference today with the term interdisciplinary for sustainability development. We are excited to hear from these bright minds and learn from their research and experience. Without further ado, let me introduce our first speaker, Fatih Naufal from the Accounting Study Program, and will present on the topic the influence of good corporate governance and state capital injection on the financial performance of state-owned enterprise in 2021 until 2023. Our second speaker, Indri Widiati Sari from the Management Study Program, and will present on the topic the impact of Instagram social media marketing and brand recall on purchase intention at kailins.id. Our third speaker, Angga Mahardika Putra from the Management Program, and we will present on the topic the influence of market timing ability, inflation, and interest rates on the performance of fixed income mutual fund for the 2024. Fourth speaker, Naila Nurul Askia from the Informatics Study Program and will present on the topic Voice of the People, ML-based sentiment analysis in the 2024 election. Our fifth speaker, Tiara Permata Hadi from the Informatics Programs and will present on the topic a data-driven approach to comparative evaluation of regression model for accrued house price prediction. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, from the presentation begin, I kindly remind all participants to maintain order and keep microphone mute during the presentation. Post your question in the chat box or use the raise hand feature. Participate actively during two Q&A session after each presentation. And the presentation will last approximately 10 minutes, followed by a Q&A session. We will be limited to max 2 questions of 5 minutes. Your support is highly valued and will contribute to success of a smooth and productive session. Now, without further ado, let's begin the session. I am pleased to welcome our first speaker, Fatih Naufal from the Accounting Study Program, and will present on the topic the influence of good corporate governance and state capital injection on the financial performance of state-owned enterprise, in 2021 until 2023. Fatih Naufal, the floor is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Respected ladies and gentlemen, honorable committee members, and all participants whom I respect, thank you for the opportunity to present my research. My name is Fatih Naufal from the majoring of accounting at Universitas Informatika dan Bisnis Indonesia. Today I will be presenting a study title, The Influence of Good Corporate Governance and State Capital Injection on the Financial Performance of State-Owned Enterprises in 2021 to 2023. Let's begin by understanding what state-owned enterprises are. Okay, state-owned enterprises or BUMN in Indonesia are organizations where the governments own all or most of the capital through direct investment of separated state assets. These enterprises play a strategic role in national economic development, ranging from public service to infrastructure. However, their performance and governance are often under public scrutiny. With this background in mind, let's see how the condition of state-owned enterprises in Indonesia has evolved in recent years. This slide shows that the number of state-owned enterprises has consistently decreased year by year. This reduction is part of the government's restructuring and efficiency strategy, where unproductive or overlapping entities are either merged or liquidated. Despite the declining number, how have their financial performance and capital structure evolved over time? Here we see an increased trend in the return on asset of state-owned enterprises, indicating that profitability has improved across the board. This reflects a better utilization of assets and possibly improved governance and capital efficiency. One element contributing to this could be the governance capital injection program. Let's look into that. This graph shows how state capital injection or PMN have fluctuated over the year. The variation may reflect changing national priorities, fiscal condition, or emergency support needs such as during the pandemic. Beyond funding, how the enterprise is governance also plays a vital role. Let's explore good corporate governance in state-owned enterprises. Okay, according to the Ministry of State-Owned Enterprises regulation, effective state-owned enterprises must adopt 5 principles of good corporate governance: transparency, accountability, responsibility, independence, and fairness. Unfortunately, 54% of top executives still hold multiple roles, potentially compromising independence and oversight. Now that we've discussed the background and context, let's move on to the core problems this study address. This research focused on 4 questions. First, how is the financial performance of state-owned enterprises in Indonesia in general? Second, how does good corporate governance affect financial performance? Third, what is the impact of state capital injection on financial performance? And fourth, how do both of them together influence financial outcomes? To answer this question, we need a solid theoretical foundation. The study is grounded in agency theory, which highlight the relationship between principles such as the governments or shareholder, and again, meaning the management of the state-owned enterprises. It explores how conflict of interest might arise and how governance mechanism can minimize such risks. Let's now define the key variable in this research. This conceptual framework illustrates how good corporate governance and state capital injection influence the financial performance of state-owned enterprises. Grounded in agency theory, the model emphasizes that both governance quality and capital structure can shape financial outcomes. Given past concern over underperforming state-owned enterprises, this framework supports empirical testing through multiple statistical techniques, including regression, correlation, and hypothesis testing, to examine the validity of this relationship. This research follows a quantitative approach, emphasizing numerical analysis and statistical validation. The sampling techniques used is purposive sampling, selecting specific entities from the population based on predefined criteria. Out of 70 state-owned enterprises officially listed by the Ministry of State-owned Enterprises between 2021 to 2023, 12 were excluded due to not generating profits. Consequently, 58 state-owned enterprises met the selection criteria and were included in the sample. With 3 years of observation for each company, the study utilizes 174 data points, forming the core of the empirical analysis. This slide summarizes how each variable is measured. Financial performance is assessed using return on asset. State capital injection is calculated by comparing PMN equity to total assets. Good corporate governance is evaluated through 6 structural indicators such board composition, ownership levels, and audit oversights, each reflecting standard benchmark for sound governance. The study used secondary data from officially public sources, supported by literature review to build the theoretical foundation to ensure the reliability of results. The data underwent several statistical tests covering validity, reliability, normality, multicollinearity, heteroscedasticity, and autocorrelation. These procedures strengthen the credibility and accuracy of the analysis. In this section, we examine the hypothesis testing methodology using both t-test and f-test. The t-test is applied to evaluate the individual impact of good corporate governance, state capital injection on the financial performance of BUMN. Meanwhile, the f-test assesses their combined effect to determine whether these two variables significantly influence performance when considered together. These tests provide the statistical foundation to validate the research hypothesis and guide us toward a meaningful conclusion. This slide summarizes data from 174 observations across 50x state-owned enterprises during the year 2021 to 2023. The average return on assets in around 2%, with governance scores near 68% and capital injection ratios close to 0.2. These figures lay the groundwork for the upcoming regression analysis. The R-squared value was 0.61x. This means 61.8% of the variation in ROA is the classical assumption test confirmed data normal data distribution, no multicollinearity, and no autocorrelation, supported by a Durbin-Watson score of approximately 1.8. The R-squared value is 0.618, meaning 61.8% of the variation in financial performance is explained by good corporate governance and state capital injection. This slide present the key finding from hypothesis testing. Good corporate governance positively influence return on asset with a T statistic of 3.97 and a p-value of 0.000, indicating a statistical significance. Similarly, state capital injection shows a strong individual impact with a t-value of 5.63. When tested together, both variables significantly affect financial performance. Confirmed by an F statistic of 21.74 and a p-value of 0.000, all hypotheses are accepted. Based on the analysis, we can conclude good corporate governance significantly and positively affect financial performance set on enterprises that implement transparency, accountability, and fairness are more efficient and profitable. State capital injection also has a strong positive effect, especially when allocated to strategic initiatives such as business recovery and asset strengthening. When analyzed together, both factors account for a substantial portion of the performance outcome. This reinforces the importance of not only providing capital but also ensuring its governed well. Okay, thank you for the opportunity given to me. I sincerely hope that everything I have shared today can be useful and meaningful. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, thank you very much, Swati Noval, for such an informative and comprehensive presentation. Now we move on to our Q&A session. Due to time constraint, we will be taking only one or two questions from the audience. Okay, from the audience, any question? Okay, from the audience, any question? Okay. If from the audience no question, I have a question for Fatih Noval. Fatih Noval, are you here?
Okay, I'm here, Mr.
Okay, thank you. Okay, again, Fatih Noval, thank you. I have a question for you. What is the main reason you choose the result and title the influence of good corporate governance and state capital injection on the financial performance of state-owned enterprise in 2021 until 2023? Is there a particular urgency behind the topic selection? Please.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Okta, for your question. The reason I choose this research is because I observed that several state-owned enterprise, we known BUMN, are still experiencing losses atau mengalami kerugian. Even though they receive capital injection from the government through the state budget. Ideally, this support should allow them to focus more on improving their service and financial performance. In addition, I also notice the phenomenon of multiple position held by BUMN executive atau bisa kita sebut rangkap jabatan, which potentially reduce the quality of good corporate governance. Based on this condition, I was interested in examining the influence of good corporate governance and state capital injection on the financial performance of BUMN. Thank you, Mr. Okta.
Okay, thank you, Fatih Noval. No, are there any other question from the audience? Okay, any question for audience? Our audience? No? Okay. If no question, again, thank you so much, Fatih Noval, for both of the presentation and your insightful answer. Ladies and gentlemen, let us now continue with our second speaker. It's my pleasure to welcome Indri Widyasari. Okay, please welcome to Indri Widyasari from the Management Study Program. and will present on the topic the impact of Instagram social media marketing and brand recall on purchase intention, Kailin's ID. Indri, the floor is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Indri Widyasari. Thank you for being here. I'm truly honored to have an opportunity to deliver my research. The title is The Impact of Instagram Social Media Marketing and Brand Recall on Purchase Intention, a study case of Kailin's ID. The advancement of technology has ushered in a new era in Indonesia's economy with the emergence of the digital economy. The development of information and communication technology in today's digital era has played a significant role in rapidly transforming Indonesia's economy. This has triggered a shift in customer behavior activities toward an all-digital era. Social media continues to evolve each year. According to Meltwater and We Are Social, there were 143 million social media users in January 2025. This number indicates that social media has become a major platform for communication, information sharing, and entertainment in Indonesia. There are various social media platforms available today, but according to We Are Social at Meltwater 2025, Instagram is the most favored platform among both male and female internet users, especially those aged 18 until 34. In addition, 62.3% of internet users over the age of 16 state that they use Instagram to find out about a brand or product. Instagram is used for promotional purposes by various types of brands across different categories. One of them is share fashion. Share fashion has emerged as a trend driven by marketing strategies employed by business actors amidst the increasing demand for clothing among Muslim women. The rise of Islamization and integration of knowledge has also influenced fashion, making shari fashion not only from obedience to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, but also trendy fashion style. The following chart show the number of Instagram followers that three shari fashion brands. Based on the chart, Kailin's ID has the lowest number of followers compared to its competitor with the similar characteristics. Therefore, it is important to further examine the purchase intention condition towards the brand's Kailin's ID, which is the main object in this study. The sales turnover charts in 2024 show that Kailin's ID experienced a gradual decline in sales turnover each quarter throughout 2024. This condition indicates an issue with customer purchase intention that needs to be studied to improve future sales performance. There is an assumption that is visualized in the purchase intention as marked by the sales decline during 2024 for Kailin's ID. Kailin's ID Instagram activity in July and August correlate with an increase in visitors and orders. However, during the inactive period in September and October, visitors declined. An anomaly occurred in October, where orders increased despite the drop in traffic. When posting resumed in November and December, no significant improvement was seen. This inconsistent pattern indicates that Kailin's ID Instagram marketing has not been effective in consistently attracting visitors or sustaining purchase intention. So this is a table about mention. The table shows that mention on Kailin's ID Instagram correlate with the store visit. In July and August, both increased alongside active posting. While in September and October, the absence of posts led a drop in mention and visit, indicating that very call or mention influenced in purchase intention. However, despite a rise in mention and in November and December, store visit remains stagnant, suggesting a shift in customer purchase intention. This highlights need to further research on the relationship between brand recall and purchase intention towards Kailin's ID. So, based on the data present above, the main issue identified in Kailin's ID is the consistent decline in sales each quarter, indicating a decrease in customer purchase intention. Throughout 2024, this is likely due to the suboptimal implementation of social media marketing, particularly the inconsistent posting pattern from October to December. Although the number of Instagram mentions increased during this period, along with the number of posts, it was not followed by an increase in store visits or orders. This suggests that Callan's ID has not yet success in building strong brand recall to drive purchase intention. Therefore, I am interested in researching this further, as both social media marketing and brand recall are suspected to have no significant influence. The next is problem statement. The first is how do respondents view the influence of social media marketing and brand recall on purchase intention at Callan's ID? Second, how significant the influence of social media marketing on purchase intention for Callan's ID? Third is how significant is the influence of brand recall on purchase intention for Callan's ID? And last is how significant is the influence of social media marketing and brand recall on purchase intention for Callan's ID? The next is research objective. First, to understand respondents' perception of the influence of social media marketing and brand recall on purchase intention at Callan's ID. Second, to determine the extent of the influence of social media marketing on purchase intention at Callan's ID. Third is to determine the extent of the influence of the brand recall on purchase intention at Callan's ID. So the last is to determine the extent of the influence of social media marketing and brand recall on purchase intention at Callan's ID. So the next is conceptual framework. This research is grounded in management theory, which is further specified into marketing management theory. Within this framework, three core theories underpin this research: customer behavior, marketing communication, and strategic branding. First is customer behavior. It's influenced by factors such as age, lifestyle stage, economic condition, etc. These factors shape customer purchase behavior, including purchase intention. The indicator of purchase intention in this study refer to Kotler and Keller, which include transactional attention, referential intention, preferential intention, and explanatory intention. The second is marketing communication. Marketing communication involves the marketing communication mix, including advertising, sales promotion, event experience, etc. With technological advancement, the marketing communication mix can now be optimized via social media, forming the basis of social media marketing. This study adopts the 4K element of social media marketing by Hauer: context, communication, collaboration, and connection. And the last is for strategic branding. The study refers to the customer based on brand equity model, which emphasizes the importance of brand recall as a key indicator in building brand awareness, thus forming effective brand equity. The brand recall indicator used refer to Vega et al., which include ID recall, un-ID recall, and top of mind. So this is a research paradigm. Social media marketing X1 and brand recall X2 to purchase intention. Next is hypothesis formulation. H1, social media marketing has significant effect on purchase intention Callan's ID. H2, brand recall has significant effect on purchase intention Callan's ID. And H3, social media marketing and brand recall have a significant effect on purchase intention Callan's ID. The next is research methodology. The type of research will be used is quantitative, as it collects and analyzes numerical data for the purpose of describing, explaining, predicting, and controlling various interesting phenomena. And this research will be used is descriptive and variable design. The population of this research includes all Instagram followers of Callan's ID, totaling 3,940 followers. On the Isaac and Michael formula above, the required sample is 337 respondents. The study used primary data in the form of questionnaires and secondary data such as book, journal, market share, etc. The instrument will be used in a Likert scale 1 until 5, where each item will be validated and testing for reliability using a pre-test involving respondents with similar characteristics. When the data is collected, it will be tested through classical assumption tests, including normality, multicollinearity, and heteroscedasticity tests. Further tests will include multiple linear regression analysis, multiple correlation analysis, and coefficient of determination analysis. Finally, hypothesis testing will be conducted using t-test and f-test to answer the formulated research hypothesis. So this is all I can present. Thank you for listening to the research outline I have prepared. Sorry if you found many mistakes in my presentation, and I hope this research can provide insight for business to optimize their marketing strategies on Instagram, especially for the brand's Kindness ID. And finally, I say, wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Indri Widiatisari. Amazing. I think your result can be contribute in digital marketing or management marketing. I see the research method and the reason why this study you do. Okay, thank you again, Indri Widiatisari. We have our first question, Indri, from private chat book to me. Allow me to read it aloud. Indri, are you here? Hello, Indri.
Yes, I'm here, Mister.
Okay, thank you. Can you open your camera, maybe?
First of all, I want to say sorry and
Hmm.
advice for the outcome because my network is very bad.
Okay, it's okay. Okay, allow me to read the question for you. Okay, to start, could you please share with us main problem in your research? Uh, can you share with us about main problem uh,
Okay.
in your research? Thank you.
Okay. So the main problem of my research is the consistent decline in Credit ID quarterly throughout 2024, despite
Mhm.
increased posting activity and Instagram mention. This suggests that sales decline during 2024 is caused by social media marketing and brand recall may have not a significant impact, which I am to investigate further.
Okay. Wow. Okay, okay, okay. Thank you, Indri Dati Sari,
Yes.
for your answer. Unbelievable, amazing. Now, are there any question? Other audience? From the audience, maybe any question? We have two question. No? Okay. Okay. If no question, thank you so much, Indri Widya Sari, for both the presentation and your insightful answers. Next, ladies and gentlemen, let us now continue with our third speaker, Angga Mahardika Putra. Angga Mahardika, are you here?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Okay, thank you, Angga. Uh, the topic The topic is the influence of marketing timing ability, inflation, and interest rate on the performance of fixed income mutual funds for the period 2020 until 2024. Okay, Angga Mahardika Putra, the floor is yours.
Thank you for the opportunity to present my research, and thank you for joining the session. My name is Angga Mardika Putra, and today I will present my study entitled The Influence of Market Timing Ability, Inflation, and Interest Rate on the Performance of Fixed Income Mutual Funds for the period 2020 to 2024. From the 2020 to 2024, Indonesia capital market saw sharp fluctuation driven by global and domestic events. The IHSG rose from 3,900 during COVID-19 onset to over 7,000 in 2022. While bond yields moved in line with shifting monetary policy, Bank Indonesia cut rates to 3.5% during the pandemic, then raised them to 6.25% by the 2023 to curb inflation. Diverse investment instruments are available, with mutual funds gaining popularity for their lower risk and professional management. The growth of Indonesian investors across foreign investment instruments like capital market, mutual funds, stock and other securities, and government bonds, shows a similar fluctuation pattern from the 2020 to 2024. Mutual funds consistently record the highest growth, peaking at 115.41% in 2021 before declining to 40.41% in 2022, 18.87% in 2023, and 22.92% in 2024. This trend reflects the impact of shifting economic conditions, inflationary pressures, and tighter monetary policy, which have influenced investor preferences and market participation. The asset under management of fixed income mutual funds increased slightly from 573 trillion rupiah in 2020 to 580 trillion rupiah in 2021, supported by favorable market timing, low interest rates, and stable inflation. However, from 2022 onward, asset under management experienced a consistent decline, falling to 508 trillion rupiah in 2022, 504 trillion rupiah in 2023, and 502 trillion rupiah in 2024, primarily due to rising interest rates and heightened inflation, which exert downward pressures on bond prices and investor confidence. While the net asset value return of most fixed income mutual funds remained stable or even increased during 2020 to 2024, the Sharpe ratio analysis revealed a contrasting performance. The ratio declined sharply from 2022 to 2024 as higher market volatility and increased risk-free rate reduced risk-adjusted return. This indicates that despite seemingly healthy nominal returns, the efficiency of return relative to risk was suboptimal in many funds during this period. Market timing ability fluctuated significantly over the period. The average value was negative in 2020 and dropped further to its lowest point in 2021 before improving to a positive 0.85 in 2022. The highest positive value was recorded in 2023, reflecting more effective portfolio adjustment to market conditions. However, in 2024, the value returned to negative, highlighting renewed challenges for funds managers in optimizing market entry and exit strategies. Indonesia inflation rate remained relatively low in 2020 and 2021, but spiked to 5.51% in 2022 due to global price pressure, food supply disruption, full price adjustment, and increased domestic demand following pandemic recovery. It then declined to 2.61% in 2023 and further to 1.57% in 2024, as monetary policy tightening helped stabilize prices. Bank Indonesia benchmark interest rate started at 3.75% in 2020 and was lowered to 3.5% in 2021 as part of accommodative monetary policy to support economic recovery. From 2022, rates increased sharply to 5.5% and reached 6% in 2023, maintaining the same level in 2024. This significant hike, particularly in 2022, negatively impacted fixed income mutual funds as higher interest rates tend to reduce bond prices, thereby lowering net asset value. The study is unique in covering for economic phases and integrating market timing, interest rate, and inflation analysis for top fixed income funds, offering holistic insight for investor and fund management. With this context, let me formalize the study question. These 5 research questions in my research. This question translates directly into concrete objective. This objective of the study in my research is the conceptual framework on this study is grounded by 3-level theoretical framework. At the grand theory level, management and financial management explain the organization and allocation of financial resources to achieve a specific goal At the middle theory level, signaling theory and macroeconomy emphasize how policy rate movement, inflation expectation, and broader macroeconomic condition act as signal that shape investor behavior and bond market dynamics. At the applied theory level, mutual fund performance, market timing ability, inflation, and the BI rate are employed to operationalize and test the influence of market timing ability, inflation, and interest rate on the performance of fixed income mutual funds for the period 2020 to 2024. Based on the framework, here is the research paradigm and hypothesis. This paradigm shows three drivers: market timing ability, inflation, and BI rate that influence mutual fund performance measured by the Sharpe ratio. For the research hypothesis, there is four. First, market timing ability partially influences the performance of fixed income mutual funds for the period 2020 to 2024. Second, the inflation partially has a significant effect on the performance of fixed income mutual funds for the period 2020 to 2024. Hypothesis 3, interest rate partially have a significant effect on the performance of fixed income mutual funds for the period 2020 to 2024. Hypothesis 4, market timing ability, inflation, and interest rates simultaneously affect the performance of fixed income mutual funds for the period 2020 to 2024. I will now explain the methodological design used to test this hypothesis. I'm using two approaches in the study. First, descriptive approach to profile variables and summarize distribution, and a comparative approach to contrast performance under differing macro conditions and timing profile. For the population, is fixed income mutual fund registered with the Financial Service Authority or OJK and available on Bareksa for the period 2020 to 2024. For the sample is 18 from the sample criteria, data collection and testing unit technique. My data collection began with the use of secondary data, including the net asset value of fixed income mutual fund, Indonesian inflation data for the period 2020 to 2024, and the Bank Indonesia interest rate data for the period 2020 to 2024. This is followed by a literature review drawing from reference books, previous related study, academic article, documentation, and scientific journal relevant to the research topic. From the testing
Oke. Indri, could you please unmute your microphone? Okay, thank you. Okay, I think finish the presentation from Angga Mahardika Putra. Angga Mahardika Putra, I'm very interesting with your research. Now we move on to our Q&A session. Maybe the first question from me. We now very many ratio can use to describe performs. So my question is why you use Sharpe ratio performs for measure tools for fixed income mutual funds in this research?
Okay, thank you for the question, Mr. Okta. So why I choose Sharpe ratio is because the Sharpe ratio not only considers nominal returns, but also adjusts them based on total risk, represented by the standard deviation of returns, as well as the risk-free rate. This adjustment is particularly crucial for fixed income mutual funds, which are highly sensitive to interest rate movement and inflation. Therefore, the Sharpe ratio provides a more accurate reflection of risk management efficiency compared to other performance measurement methods. I think that's all.
Oh, okay. Okay. I know. So, in your research, you use Sharpe ratio to describe performance from the fixed income mutual funds. That's right? Okay. Thank you for your answer, Angga. Now, maybe from the audience, any question from the audience? From the audience? No question? Okay. Okay, from the audience, no question. Again, thank you so much, Angga Mahardika Putra, for both of presentation and your insightful answers. Ladies and gentlemen, let us now continue with our fourth speaker. Our fourth speaker is Naila Nurul Askia. Hello, Naila Nurul Askia, are you here?
I'm here, Mr. Okta.
Okay, thank you. Nice to meet you, Naila Nurul Askia.
Thank you, Mr. Okta.
Okay. Naila Nurul Askia from Informatics Study Program and will present on the topic Voice of the People, ML-based sentiment analysis in the 2024 election. Naila Nurul Askia, are you ready?
Ready, Mr. Okta.
Okay, thank you. Naila Nurul Askia, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, introducing myself, my name is Naila Nur Azkia from Indonesia University of Informatics and Business. On this occasion, I will present the result of our research on Voice of the People Machine Learning-based sentiment analysis in the 2024 election. We will analyze one of the candidates, Mr. Prabowo Subianto, regarding public sentiment in the 2024 election and the data we get from the X platform on the Kaggle page and performs analysis with machine learning models, XGBoost, random forest, and logistic regression. As we know, presidential elections are very important in Indonesia. They generate public opinion, both positive and negative, which impact one of the candidates, Mr. Prabowo Subianto. His image has changed, attracting a lot of public opinion. This study classifies sentiment using machine learning to capture public opinion efficiently. We collected the data from Kaggle, which had positive and negative labels. We then processed the data by performing pre-processing, such as stop word removal, label encoding, and feature extraction using TF-IDF. We then split the data, and we use three algorithms: random forest, extreme gradient boosting or XGBoost, and logistic regression. In the dataset that we use, there are 10 parameters such as tag, label, and tweet count. We split it into two, for the next to be the classify feature and for the label to be classification target. This is the workflow. The research workflow begins with load the data, then moving on the text preprocessing stage where we perform stop word removal or delete words that have no influence on sentiment. Then label encoding the text with positive and negative labels, positive for 1 and negative for 0. Followed by features extraction to classify word and splitting the data into training and the testing, and training is 80% and testing is 20%. And then apply machine learning models like random forest, extreme gradient boosting or XGBoost, and logistic regression, and evaluate the results by examining the confusion metric and classification report, concluding the process. In the picture, there are two bars, green for positive and red for negative. From this picture, we can see that the word support is in the positive section and is the top word with a value of 0.21 followed by other features. While for the negative section, the word president dominates with a negative value of 0.22. Confusion metric is for measure how accurate the model used for data specification. In this confusion metric, it can be seen how many correct and incorrect model prediction there are, like true positive, true negative, false positive, and false negative, which will be used as an indicator of the performance of each model so that its accuracy can be calculated. In the evaluation model for accuracy, XGBoost outperformed other algorithms with a score of 89%. And for precision, XGBoost still outperformed with a score of 86%. And Random Forest had a better record score of 85%, and XGBoost had an F1 score of 84%. This is the result and discussion. XGBoost is the best balance in accuracy and precision, and Random Forest ideal when recall or broad sentiment capture is prioritized. And choice of algorithm depends on whether your value precision or coverage. This suggestion for future research: explore other machine learning algorithm models and add more training data. For the conclusion, XGBoost is the most effective algorithm for sentiment classification, and the machine learning is proven useful for analyzing public perception on social media, and Random Forest remains a strong alternative for broader coverage needs. This is reference from this research. Okay, everyone, this is all I can say. Thank you for your attention and sorry for the mistake. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Hey, Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Naila Nurul Askia. Naila, for sure, I'm from the management department program. So I think I don't know too much about your research, but I'm very interesting, about your research. I think it gives a new research about ML best, right? So, I think I have a question for you about your research. Maybe you can answer and explain to us about this question. Okay, Naila, does the data labeling in this research fully follow the label already available in the data set? Or is manual analysis performed to determine positive and negative classification? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Okta. Allow me to answer. The
Okay.
data labeling process in this research was not done manually, but was already available from the dataset used, and which
Mhm.
was sourced from the Kaggle page. And
Mhm.
in addition, the main focus of this research was not only on the use of the dataset, but also on the testing and comparing several machine learning algorithms to get the best accuracy in sentiment classification. Thank
Oh,
you.
okay. Okay. I know. Okay, Naila Nurul Askia, thank you for your insightful answer for me. Okay, maybe we have one question more from audience. Maybe from audience, any question? Any other question from audience for our speaker Naila Nurul Askia? From the audience, no? No question? Okay. Okay, Naila Nurul Askia, no question from the audience. So again, thank you so much, Naila, for both the presentation and your insightful answer for me and for all of us. Again, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Let us now continue our fifth speaker. Okay, our fifth speaker is Tiara Permata Hadi. Tiara Permata Hadi, are you here?
Oh, yes, I'm here, sir.
Okay, thank you, Tiara Permata Hadi. Okay, Tiara Permata Hadi from the Informatic Study Programs and will present on the topic a data-driven approach to comparative evaluation. To comparative evaluation or regression model for accurate house price prediction, right? Okay. So, Tiara Permata Hadi, are you ready to explain your research to all of us?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Tiara Permata Hadi. So, the floor is yours.
Hello everyone, my name is Tiara Permatahati from Universitas Informatika and Business Indonesia. Today, I'm going to share my research titled A Data-Driven Approach to Comparative Evaluation of Regression Models for Accurate House Price Prediction. So, here's the background. In Bandung, the property market is constantly shifting. The price can change quickly because of population growth, infrastructure projects, and economic factors. For developers, agents, and even buyers, having accurate price prediction can really make a difference in decision making. But the challenge is traditional prediction models often use raw variables only, things like building area, land area, and location without creating new, more informative feature. In this research, I wanted to test how adding feature engineering could improve prediction accuracy using 4 different regression models. The main goals of this research were: first, to see the impact of feature engineering on model performance. Second, to measure the performance using metrics like MIA, MSA, RMSA, and especially R-square. Third, to compare accuracy before and after feature engineering. And finally, to identify which feature really matters the most. The contribution here is showing that by creating the right engineered feature, like price per square meter, we can get a big improvement in accuracy. Here's how the research was done. We collected 7,609 house listings from rumah123.com. Here's how the research was done. We collected 7,609 house listings from rumah123.com in March 2024. The first step was data pre-processing. The process was removing duplicates, filling or handling missing values, and standardizing formats. For categorical data like location, we use encoding so it could be processed by the models. Next is feature engineering. We created new variable, for example, first price per m square, which is price divided by land area. This is important because in urban area, land is the biggest cost driver. Second is building land ratio, which is building area divided by land area. This is useful to see how intensively the land is used. And last is total rooms, which combines bedroom and bathroom to represent functional space. Then we trained 4 models: linear regression, KNN, random forest, and XGBoost. We split the data for 80% for training and 20% for testing, and used cross-validation to make sure the results were stable. The evaluation metrics were MIA, MSE, RMSE, and R-square. Now, let's look at the result in the numbers. For linear regression, the baseline R-square was about 0.5, and after feature engineering, it improved to around 0.8 in cross-validation. I mean, that's a big jump. And for KKN, the story is different. The baseline was around 0.6, but after feature engineering, it's actually dropped about 0.5. And this is likely because KNN is very sensitive to how features are scaled and distributed. And from random forest, we see a huge improvement from 0.7 to about 0.9. and XGBoost is similar too, from like 0.7 to about 0.9. We can also see the error metrics like MIA and RMSE going down significantly for random forest and XGBoost after feature engineering, which means the predictions are much closer to actual prices. This bar chart makes the improvement easier to see because random forest jumps from around 0.7 to almost 0.9 and XGBoost from around 0.7 to almost 0.9. Linear also improved nicely, while KKN is the only one that goes down. So the visual takeaway here is feature engineering plus ensemble methods like random forest and XGBoost give the most reliable and significant boost in the prediction accuracy. So to wrap up, feature engineering makes a big difference in predicting house prices. Random forest and XGBoost were the clear winner with a square score of 0.9 and 0.9. The feature price for M squared and building land ratio were the most impactful. Ensemble models generally outperform linear and KKN. Linear gets a nice boost after feature engineering, but KKN is less stable in this case. Why is this important? Because it means developer and buyers can make much more data-driven decisions instead of guessing. Plus, the same approach could be applied to other cities with similar housing markets, showing how powerful machine learning combined with feature engineering can be in real estate analytics. So this is the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening, and I'd be happy to answer any question or discuss any part of the study in more details.
Okay. Thank you very much, Tiara Permatahadi from the informatic programs. Okay. Tiara, you as our last speaker, So, Tiara, can you open your camera, please? Okay, thank you. Tiara, you are a last speaker to our room today, to a parallel section to the conference. So I would like to say thank you so much for your valuable presentation. And of course, I have a question for you for your research. Okay, maybe please answer the question for me. Why do you think random forest and XGBoost perform much better than KKN and linear regression after feature engineering? Tiara.
All right, that's a great question. So the main reason is that random forests and XGBoost are ensemble methods, so they can capture nonlinear relationship and complex interaction between features. When we add engineered feature like price per square meter or building land ratio, these models were able to fully take advantage of them. So in the other hand, linear regression assumes a straight line relationship. So even though feature engineering help, its capacity is still limited. And for KKN, it's distance based. So when the feature space changes due to transformation, the distance calculation sometimes become less meaningful. So that's why its accuracy drop. So in short, ensemble methods benefit the most because they more flexible and robust to feature transformation. And that's the answer. Thank you so much for the question. I hope my answers were helpful.
Okay, Tiara, I think your research finding is new and give this research area, I think very good and give our new insight from the random forest, XGBoost, KKN, linear regression. So thank you for your insightful answers. Tiara, thank you so much for your both presentation and your insightful answer again. So Ladies and gentlemen, let us now continue the next section. Thank you to all of our speakers for their insightful presentation. We truly appreciate the knowledge and perspective you share with us today. Now we will move on to a group photo section. Kindly turn on your camera on the count of 3. I will take a screenshot. So I count 1, 2, 3 and take. Please you open your camera. All of you, please. Okay, 5 minutes. Okay. Indri, can you open your camera, please? Indri, are you here with me? Okay. Okay. Thank you, Tiara, Fatih, Naila, Angga, and Indri. So, I count 1, 2, 3. Okay. I think once again, a freestyle maybe. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, okay. Okay, thank you, Fatih, Naufal, and Indri Widiasari, Naila Nurul Askia, Tiara Permata Hadi, and Angga Mahardika Putra. On behalf of the organized committee, I would like to thank you all speakers and participants for your valuable contribution to this parallel section. We look forward to your active participation in the upcoming section. So again, thank you and enjoy the rest of the conference. Good afternoon. Thank you, Tiara, Fatih, Naufal, Angga, Indri. Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Okta.
Thank you, Mr. Okta.
Thank you.
Oke, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice to meet you all. I leave this room, okay?